Adrian Kempe returns, and another King is set to come back. That and much more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love you to leave us a positive comment on Apple Podcasts if you're a fan of the show. And we are on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 17 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On to get $20 off your first purchase. I did want to mention real quick, I had a meeting with basically my boss, the person who oversees the NHL shows on the Locked On networks, and it was a good meeting. He said the numbers for the show, the downloads on the podcast, the views on the YouTube channel are all going very, very well. Always great to hear your boss say that he's very happy with what's going on with the show. He did say that our show was fourth best among any of the American NHL Locked On shows. And I guess number one as far as non-traditional markets, for what that's worth. But again, always nice to hear from your boss that the show's doing well. They love the numbers. They love the way things are trending. And basically keep up the good work, but there's always things that we can do better, that I can do better. But I do want to share that with you guys in a way of saying thank you for all the support of this show. When I took over the show, the off season before last, I think we had less than 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. We're now getting close to 3,000. So anyway, like I said, it's all, the way this show is going, the direction it's going in is good. And that is obviously thanks in part to you being everydayers and supporting the show. So thank you guys so much for what you helped me do with Locked On LA Kings. All right. The NHL trade deadline, for better or worse, is now behind us. And it's time to move on and focus on the playoffs. Heading into tonight's game against the New York Islanders, which we're going to talk more about coming up, the Kings have just 19 games left, 10 at home, 9 on the road, and then it's time for the postseason. And it's time for the Kings right now to start ramping up for the postseason. You want to be playing your best hockey when you're going into the most important time of the year, and the Kings are getting healthier as well. We had a return this Saturday, sooner than I expected, and that was Adrian Kempe back in the lineup after just one practice wearing the red non-contact jersey, but he was ready to go against the Dallas Stars, a team that many people are picking to be the team to make it out of the Western Conference and to the Stanley Cup final. They are leading the Central Division as far as the lineup the Kings would have against the Dallas Stars. Now, remember, the Kings had been employing that 11 forward, 7 defense lineup. With Adrian Kempe back, that would change back to the more traditional 12-9 matchup for the LA Kings. I was right the first time, 12-6. Math is easy, everybody, except for me. So Adrian Kempe back on the top line with Anze Kopitar and Quentin Byfield. That meant that Alex Turcotte, who had been up there occasionally on the top line, would be moved back down to center on the fourth line, and Blake Lizotte was moved out of that spot to play wing on the third line with Pierre Dubois. Of course, the second line always remains unchanged. Philip Deneau, Trevor Moore, and Kevin Fiala. We still had Jacob Movarar with Drew Doughty on the top pairing defensively, Vladislav Gavrikov and Matt Roy, and Andreas Englund with Jordan Spence. And Cam Talbot would be in net again for the LA Kings. As for the game against Dallas, if you missed it, a very quick recap. Kings jumped out to a 1-0 lead just 28 seconds into the game. Drew Doughty with a nice pass to Kevin Fiala, who would deflect it in, kind of a tip in past the Dallas goaltender, and Kings get off to a great start and led 1-0 after the opening period. Second period, though, the Stars would strike with two goals in just 18 seconds. and they grab a 2-1 lead going into the third. Final period belonged to Dallas. Pair of goals, one of them on the power play, the other into an empty net, and the Kings lose by a score of 4-1. As for the game stats in the loss against Dallas, again, Kings fall 4-1. Shots on goal favored Dallas 35-25. The Kings have not gotten their typical shots on goal that they usually have gotten most of the season here of late, with varying degrees of success. Power play, Dallas was 1 for 5, while the Kings were 0 for 4. A power play goal here or there, maybe that changes things a bit. Face-offs, Kings did perform the Stars in the face-off circle, which is good to see. 33-27. That's one of the concerns I've had with the Kings, is how they've done in the face-off circle, but they were pretty good against Dallas. Block shots favored the Kings 16-7. Hits favored LA 18-12. But the only real stat that matters is that scoreboard, and the Kings fall by a score of 4-1. So kind of a new thing we're doing here on the show. One word to describe the Kings' performance. And I think that one word, honestly, and I hate to say it, is outclassed. I think I've mentioned Occam's razor before. He was a philosopher who's credited with the theory that the simplest explanation is usually the correct explanation. And the explanation for the Kings losing this game is that the Stars are better than them. Their record certainly would indicate that. They're 2-0 against the Kings this season, having outscored LA 9-2. Some good news, the Kings are not at 100%. They are missing key players. Mikey Anderson, update on him coming up, Victor Arvidsson, and to an extent, Carl Grundstrom. Could those players help to change the tide against Dallas? Maybe. It would certainly give us a better chance, especially Victor Arvidsson. And Mikey Anderson's importance, while he doesn't, do anything points-wise usually, certainly what he does defensively is very important. So, look, if the Kings face the Dallas Stars in the playoffs, it's going to be a very, very, very tough series. That said, hopefully we're at 100%, and we'll see what happens. The pluses, the positives to take away from this game, obviously Adrian Kempe returning. Thought he looked pretty good, all things considered. After missing 5 games, he almost had a big shorthanded goal in this one that would have tied the game at 2-2 heading into the third. Kempe played in all situations, played on the penalty kill, played on the power play, finished with 20 minutes and 51 seconds of ice time. That was the most of any forward by far. PL Dubois was second with 18 minutes and 39 seconds. So Kempe right back in the fire. Certainly, as far as his minutes go, there was no restriction whatsoever. And he didn't have a point. He was a -1, but I still think a positive return for Adrian Kempe. And after the game, he had this to say about his return. Quote, "First period was not the best, obviously. I hadn't played in a while. I knew pretty much right away legs weren't going to feel great right off the bat. Kind of started feeling better. Second and third, I felt a little bit better out there. But first game, I wasn't expecting much, but work hard and play simple." And again, I thought, all things considered, Adrian Kempe looked pretty good. Certainly had his legs under him and got thrown right back in the fire. And I thought he looked pretty good. As far as the minuses from the game, the negative takeaway, this is the type of game that doesn't give a lot of people confidence the Kings can win a playoff series against the top teams in the NHL. As I mentioned, the Stars better statistically coming into the game, and they certainly looked like the better team on the ice, and they won without using their number one goalie. Jake Ottinger didn't start. Scott Wedgwood did, their backup. And they played the night before for what it's worth, and the Kings only got 1 goal. Now, the Kings have beaten some good teams this season, but when it comes to the playoffs, you're not talking about winning a game or 2. You're talking about winning 4 out of 7. Certainly the way the Kings played against the Stars, you could not see them winning 4 out of 7 against that team. But like I said, there is some help on the way. Kings at full strength. Maybe it's a different story. But again, if they face the Dallas Stars in the first round, which is a possibility, that is going to be a very, very tough series the way it stands right now. And the Kings have another challenge tonight against a team that is playing very well and battling for a playoff spot. So another challenge for the LA Kings coming up tonight, but they are getting another piece back. We'll give you the details on that and more here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. I don't, because I use Gametime, the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. I use Gametime to buy tickets to NHL and NFL games, and I'm a very satisfied customer. The app is very easy to navigate and use with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guaranteed. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase, and I love how you can view your seat before you buy it, so you know exactly the view you're going to get when you arrive. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, all-in prices, show you the total up front so you know you're getting a great deal without any hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps on the app. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. The Kings are back in action tonight as they wrap up their 5-game homestand with a game against the red-hot New York Islanders. Islanders are currently riding a 6-game winning streak, and with that 6-game winning streak, they have moved themselves into a wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. New York is tied in points with slumping Detroit, but the Islanders do have a game in hand on the Red Wings. So again, they are the number 2 wild card team in the East heading into tonight's game, and obviously they want to win to try and stay there. Big news, though, for the Kings is the likely return of Mikey Anderson tonight. The Kings' top defensive defenseman looks to be paired with Drew Doughty. They were paired together at the morning skate, according to friend of the show, Zach Dooley, the LA Kings insider. And all signs indicate that Mikey Anderson will be in the lineup tonight. Now, with the caveat of, him skating with the group, if he doesn't have any, setbacks or doesn't feel any different with whatever that injury is coming into the game tonight, getting there for the pregame warmup, then it does look like he will be in the lineup tonight. As for the Kings, they come into tonight's game with a 32-20-11 record, 3rd place in the Pacific, 7th in the Western Conference, and 12th in the NHL with 75 points. Kings are 13-11-7 at home, coming off that 4-1 home loss to the Stars. As for the New York Islanders, a record of 29-20-14, 4th place in the Metropolitan Division, 8th in the Eastern Conference, 16th in the NHL with 72 points. Islanders are 14-12-5 on the road this season, coming off a 6-1 road win over the Ducks on Sunday. Kings are 20th in the NHL in goals scored per game, 3.05. The Islanders 17th in goals per game, 3.11. So pretty even there. LA 3rd in the NHL in goals allowed per game at 2.64. New York 21st in the NHL in goals allowed per game at 3.21. So an advantage for the Kings defensively. Kings are 15th in the NHL in the power play, 22.2%. Islanders are 12th at 22.9%. So pretty even there. LA is back to being number 1 on the penalty kill in the NHL at 86%. New York is dead last in the NHL, 32nd on the penalty kill, 71.7%. So a potential there for a big mismatch when the Kings are on the power play. They're taking on the worst penalty kill in the league. So power play goal tonight for the Kings. There's an opportunity there to take advantage of that. Individually, Kings are led in points by Kevin Fiala, who has 57, 21 goals, and 36 assists. Trevor Moore leads the team in goals with 24. But, of course, Adrian Kempe back, one of the top producers in the league, or on the team in points as well. So good to have Adrian Kempe back. For the Islanders, Matthew Barzal is their leading scorer. He's got 68 points, 20 goals, and 48 assists. Defenseman Noah Dobson, second on the team in points with 64. And Brock Nelson is the Islanders' leading goal scorer with 29. As for the 2 netminders, the LA Kings are looking to go with David Riddick tonight. He has been out of the lineup for a while. Cam Talbot has taken over as the Kings' number 1 goaltender. So looking to get David Riddick back into some action, even though Cam has been playing very, very well. Certainly can understand, though, that he has been carrying the load a bit, and I think that was a bit of a concern earlier in the year. So even though I think the way Cam Talbot has been playing lately is encouraging, certainly can understand why they're looking to keep them a little bit fresher for when the playoffs come around. The Kings do have back-to-back games coming up on their road trip as well, so we'll see David Riddick as well in that one. But as for Riddick on the season, record of 9-4-3, 2.32 goals against average, and a 914 save percentage. So David Riddick back in night, spelling Cam Talbot in this one. As for the Islanders, they're reportedly going to go with Elias Sorokin, their number one goalie. Their backup, Semyon Varlamov, played last night against Anaheim. As for Sorokin, a record of 22, 13, and 11. Goals against average of 3.01, a save percentage of 910. His last start was against the Sharks last Thursday. He allowed 2 goals on 25 shots in picking up the victory. This is the second and final matchup between the Kings and the Islanders. You might remember it was the Islanders that snapped the Kings' NHL record 11-game road winning streak to start the season back on December 9th. That was a 3-2 overtime win for New York on Long Island. Islanders are giving up an average of 5, or should say the Islanders are scoring an average of 5 goals per game over this 6-game winning streak they've got. So the Kings obviously need to step it up defensively, but also need to capitalize on their opportunities. As I mentioned, power play chances for the Kings tonight against that Islanders worst in the league penalty kill, something the Kings are going to have to take advantage. I'll just spell it out. If the Kings don't score at least one power play goal tonight, I don't think they win the game. One place LA, again, has that advantage, and they need to take advantage of it, is on that penalty kill. As for the projected lineup tonight against the New York Islanders, we mentioned the likely return of Mikey Anderson, so that obviously affects things on the back end. But again, this is according to Zach Dooley, the Kings insider. The morning skate had Alex Turcotte playing on the top line with Andrei Kopitar and Quentin Byfield, not Adrian Kempe. Second line was unchanged, of course, Deno, Moore, and Fiala. But Kempe, at least in the morning skate, slated on the third line with P.L. Dubois and Alex Laferriere. Arthur Kaliev getting back in the lineup with that more traditional setup of the 12 and 6. So he's on the fourth line with Blake Lizotte centering and Trevor Lewis on the right side. So we've seen Alex Turcotte and Blake Lizotte kind of being flip-flopped a little bit for each other lately. So we'll see how that goes. But I think Turcotte's done a decent job and looking to get more balanced scoring in the lineup with Adrian Kempe on that third line with P.L. Dubois. We'll see how that goes. As far as the defense goes, if Mikey Anderson is back, he'll, of course, be on that typical top pairing with Drew Doughty. The second pairing will stay the same with Matt Roy and Vladislav Gavrikov, and the third pairing expected to be the same as well with Andreas Engelland and Jordan Spence. And again, David Riddick is going to be in net tonight for the LA Kings. So that's the projected lineup for the Los Angeles Kings. Looking forward to seeing Mikey Anderson hopefully back in the lineup, and that should certainly help things out defensively for the LA Kings. Where do the Kings sit in the playoff race, and who are they currently matched up against in the playoff spot after the weekend's action? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA and NHL players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. And, of course, you could place a bet on the LA Kings tonight as they take on the New York Islanders. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. The LA Kings face the New York Islanders tonight, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. Catch every moment of the hometown broadcast of your LA Kings with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search LA Kings. So let us check the standings in the Pacific Division and the Western Conference as we come out of this weekend. The Edmonton Oilers have 81 points. They're now 6 points up on the Kings for the second slot in the Pacific Division. Kings with 75 points. The Nashville Predators have 78 points, but they're in fourth place in the Central Division, 10 points behind Colorado. So that makes them a wild card team, and that is likely where they're going to stay. Not much chance, even though the Predators are red hot right now, of catching the Colorado Avalanche. So the news for the Nashville Predators is they're pretty much locked into a wild card spot unless they're, of course, caught from behind by someone, which doesn't look likely at this point. But the LA Kings, even though they have fewer points than the Predators right now, they would be the third team in the Pacific, and so not a wild card team. The Vegas Golden Knights, though, are right there with the Kings, tied in points. Each of them have 75. Now, the Kings have a game in hand on Vegas, which is why right now, going into tonight's action, the Kings are third in the Pacific, and Vegas is the number 2 wildcard team. Now, the Kings and Golden Knights do not play each other again head-to-head the rest of the regular season, so no chance for either team to get an advantage with a big win head-to-head at some point. You've got Minnesota, who's been playing pretty good of late, checking in with 69 points, so they're 6 points out of the final wildcard spots, fairly significant. And then Seattle, Calgary, St. Louis all have 67 points. So they're certainly long shots as well. So the way it looks right now, you've got the Kings, Predators, and Golden Knights, 3 teams battling for playoff positioning. But again, Nashville's pretty much locked into a wild card spot. It's going to be between the Kings and the Golden Knights as far as who gets third and who is a wild card team. And that's very much up in the air at this point. If the playoffs started today, it would be the Kings against the Edmonton Oilers in the first round of the playoffs for a third consecutive season. So what are the ramifications of tonight's game for the Kings? Well, a Kings win or a loss in overtime or a shootout means that LA would maintain that third spot in the Pacific. However, if the Kings lose, they will drop out of the third spot and become the final wildcard team, the number 2 wildcard team in the West, because after tonight's game, and the Golden Knights aren't playing tonight, LA and Vegas would have played the same number of games. Vegas, though, it would be 64 games. Vegas, though, has more regulation wins than the Kings, 34-32. So that would give them the tiebreaker. If they played the same number of games, if they have the same number of points, Vegas would have the tiebreaker and they would be the number 3 seed. That is if the Kings do not pick up a point tonight. As far as games of interest for the Kings that are going on elsewhere, really just one. The Jets are hosting the Capitals. If the Kings were to fall into a wild card spot, Winnipeg is potentially one of their first round opponents. That wouldn't be the case at the moment, but they're battling. Winnipeg is battling with Dallas for the top spot in the Central, so it's potential that we could face the Winnipeg Jets. If the Kings were a wild card team tonight, they would face the Dallas Stars in the first round of the playoffs. So that's what has happened over the weekend, where the Kings sit in the playoffs, and what could happen tonight, whether they win or lose. Did want to give you our typical rain report on a Monday, what has been happening with the Kings AHL affiliate over the past 7 days. And it's also a good time to let you know that the Kings have sent defenseman Brandt Clarke and forward Samuel Fagemo back to Ontario for now. So again, Brandt Clarke, Samuel Fagemo are with the Ontario Reign. They were called up briefly for the LA Kings, but Clarke has been more than briefly. He's been around for a while, but now he is back in the AHL, and so is Fagemo at the moment. As for the Ontario Reign, they did go 2-0 over the past 7 days and are riding a 7-game winning streak as we record this show. On Wednesday, they beat the Abbotsford Canucks 5-3. Reign were down 2-0 in the first, stormed back with 3 straight goals in the second. Hayden Hodgson, TJ Tynan, and Francesco Pinelli with the goals. Abbotsford would tie it up in the third, but then Samuel Fagemo would score the final 2 goals, the last one into an empty net to seal the win for Fagemo. Goals 30 and 31 this AHL season. And Aaron Dell got the start in net for Ontario. He allowed 3 goals on 24 shots to pick up the win. On Sunday, the Reign would knock off the Calgary Wranglers 5-1. Samuel Fagemo with the hat trick in this one. Goals 32, 33, and 34. Nikita Pavlichev and Taylor Ward added goals as well. Eric Portillo was in net, allowed 1 goal on 39 shots to get the win. So Ontario right now is in 4th place in the Pacific Division of the AHL with an overall record of 30, 19, and 6. They've got 4 games coming up in the next 7 days. Tonight, they're at Calgary. Wednesday, they're at the San Diego Gulls. Friday, home against the Coachella Valley Firebirds. And then Saturday at the Bakersfield Condors. So cool to see the Ontario Reign playing very well right now, and cool to see Samuel Fagemo continuing to light up the AHL with his 5 goals in those 2 games, including the game-winning goal in both. Hat trick mixed in as well. Samuel Fagemo was named the AHL Player of the Week. On the season, he's got 34 goals in 37 games, and he is tied the AHL goal scoring lead with Adam Gaudette of the Springfield Thunderbirds. So again, Samuel Fagemo having a hell of a season in the AHL, and hopefully looking forward to him translating that to the NHL at some point, if not this season, then certainly next season. One final note on a player in the organization. This happened last week, but with the trade deadline and all the Kings stuff going on, didn't really have time to squeeze it in until now. But I did want to mention that the Kings signed goaltender Jacob Ingham to a 1-year, 2-way contract worth $775,000. Now, Ingham has been on loan with the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. That's the Kings' ECHL affiliate. Ingham's 23 years old. He was a 6th-round pick of the Kings in 2018. And this is a big deal for Jacob Ingham. It might seem like not like a big deal for the Kings, but for Ingham, it is a very big deal. He missed an entire season of hockey after back surgery. There were some thoughts that he might not be able to resume his hockey career, but he has come back. He's played well and has shown that the Kings obviously want to invest in him in the future, give him a shot to see what he could do. And but again, that's kind of the small picture in some sense. The big picture is that Jacob Ingham has come back from that back surgery and gets a 1-year deal. So good for Jacob Ingham. Good comeback story, and we wish him all the best going forward. For you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on Tuesday's show, obviously we will recap, hopefully, a Kings win over the New York Islanders. Going to be a tough one, though, tonight. Wednesday, we will take a look at the Kings' upcoming 3-game road trip, which will start on Wednesday in St. Louis. Thursday, we'll recap that Kings-Blues game, look ahead to the doubleheader coming up on Friday and Saturday for the Kings. They'll be in Chicago and then in Dallas for a rematch with the Stars. And then Friday, of course, we'll recap that Kings-Blackhawks game and have another Kings fan feedback show. And we'll see if we maybe can mix a guest in this week at some point as well. If you want to get in on that fan feedback show, the email address, as always, is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. If you're watching on YouTube, we'd love for you to post your comments in the comments section. We appreciate that. It helps the algorithm. Would also love for you to stay connected with the show by following us on social media, X, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, go Kings, go.